Hello to all our listeners for today's webinar. I hope you hear and see me well. Please enter plus in our chat so I understand that I could understand that we may start. Today's webinar is dedicated to conformity assessment of medical devices in Ukraine. This is a short presentation that may be that stands to for better understanding of Ukrainian regulatory systems for medical devices. Yeah, so I see that we have several participants, attendees. So please type plus if you hear me and see me well. And that's how I understand that I may start our webinar. Yeah, I see a plus. So let's start. So the topic of today's webinar is the conformity assessment of medical devices in Ukraine. My name is Vlad Kasianenko. I'm the CEO of MedQuality Consulting Company, and today we will try to make it more simple for you about the understanding of regulatory principles of registration for medical devices in Ukraine. Before we proceed, several sentences about me. So my name is Vladislav. You may call me Vlad. I have working in medical devices industry about 8 years. I have experience as a lead auditor at conformity assessment body on medical devices. I have audited more than 200 companies all around the world regarding the MDD, technical regulations, and ISO 13485. So I have two degrees: pharmaceutical biotechnology and quality management system management master's degree, and a few words about which we have made here in Ukraine. So as you know, there are a lot of demand here about the 3D printed implants, prosthetic devices, etc. And we are covering all of these products, and we help them to smoothly enter the Ukrainian market. Okay, that's all about me. Let's proceed to the next slide. I would like to start from very important topic because sometimes it causes some misunderstandings. Yeah, so I would like to begin that with this timeline, and you see that the first that we see here is the 14th of June 1993. It is the time when MDD directive was implemented, was introduced in the European Union. And about 20 years later, we may see the second point of the timeline is the technical regulation of medical devices of Ukraine, which was accepted and approved on 2nd of October 2013. So you may see that to adopt the European legislation system, we needed about 20 years. Of course, now it will be faster, but we're still working on it. So next point we see here is the 5th of April 2017, when the MDR was introduced in the European Union. Now you're still in the process of implementation. Yes, we will have some MDD certificate valid until 2027 and 2028 according to amendment, but the MDR is implemented in the European Union. But the next point, you may see a lot of questions mark. Yeah, it is the time when the new technical regulation for medical devices in Ukraine will be implemented. Now the Ministry of Health of Ukraine working on it, and according to the last news, they plan to introduce the new regulation, which will be based on the MDR by the end of this year, with some transferring period for 5 or 10 years. but they assure us that by the end of this year we will see like the final approved project of the new regulation of medical devices in Ukraine. And so what is the conclusion from the previous slide? The main conclusion is that our Ukrainian technical regulation number 753 is the total equivalent of a medical device directive. So they are equal in most of the provisions. And on the slide now you may see the differences. Yes, they are slight, but we have them. For example, in the European Union, in MDD, as according to MDR, you have the notified body. Yes, in Ukraine we call them conformity assessment body. In the European Union, each country has its own national competent authority. Yeah, and in Ukraine we also have the same, which is the State Service for Medications and Drugs Control. To enter the European market, you should fill in the declaration of conformity for European market. The same we have here in Ukraine. So to enter the Ukrainian market, you should prepare the local declaration of conformity with Ukrainian language, Ukrainian information indicated in it. It can be usually in both languages, Ukrainian and English, but Ukrainian still should be inside the declaration of conformity. Next part that we have here is the IFU labeling or other information which you are giving to the customer usually, and on the territory of European Union you should give it in member state language. So where the products travels, yes, you should have the language of the targeted market. The same is here. So you should prepare the IFUs, the labeling, and other information which you are giving to the customer in the local Ukrainian language. By the way, if you have any questions, please write it in chat. We will discuss it in the end of this webinar, and I will answer all of your questions. Okay, next part is the technical documentation, which we here see the same technical documentation in the technical regulation number 753. So you should you may prepare your technical documentation and just submit it to local conformity assessment body. Sometimes some competent market surveillance authorities may require this information in Ukrainian, but you may not translate it until the market surveillance comes to your distributor or authority representative and asks for it. Mostly all of conformity assessment bodies accept the technical documentation in English. Yeah, of course, it shouldn't be in Chinese or Korean or Polish. It should be in English, so the conformity assessment body may accept it. As well as on the territory of European Union, you have the self-declaration procedure for first-class medical device or custom-made devices. The same we have here. You should submit the declaration of conformity, the power of attorney, and confirmation from the conformity assessment body about the risk class of the medical device to the State Service for Medications and Drugs Control. So you may see that we have a lot in common, yeah, with MDD. On the territory of European Union, you should have the EU authorized representative. The same is in Ukraine. Here you should also have the authorized representative, which will forward to you all the claims, all the improvements and other requests from the customers, or maybe some incidents, adverse events, and etc. Okay, let's move on. Now we will talk about the risk classes and procedures for conformity assessment according to technical regulation number 753. So on the slide, you may see the first class, custom-made devices, 2A to B class devices, and the third class devices. You still won't see here, for example, first reusable class, because as we talked before, we still have the equivalent of MDD, and first R class on the territory of European Union will be still the classic first class on the territory of Ukraine. Okay, for the first class, there is the procedure which we call usually self-declaration in the local authority, and no certificate of conformity needed. So you just submit in the declaration the letter from conformity assessment body about the risk class of the device and the power of attorney or agreement. It depends on which document you prefer, but these documents are submitted to state servers of drugs control, and they put you in the register together with your authorized representative as the person or a company which is responsible for the market entry for your products. The same procedure we have for custom-made devices, but here we have a little bit differences. What I am talking about. You know that according to MDR, now the custom-made devices certainly has its own risk class. So they also have the first class or 2A or 2B or the third class. In Ukraine, we just have custom-made devices. So when you apply to register for these devices, you couldn't state somewhere in your documents that this class is, for example, 2A or 2B. You just put inside the declaration of conformity or claim about the custom-made devices the information that this medical device is custom-made. So you have the specific order, the specific record from the doctor or other medical clinic or a hospital who gave this to your customer, and they came to you with the order. Okay, let's talk about 2A, 2B, and the third class. They all need the involvement of conformity assessment body here in Ukraine, as well as in European Union. So when we have, for example, 2A and 2B class, you should apply to conformity assessment body, but you also need to receive from them, after all of the audits or all of the recognition procedure have passed, you should receive from them certificate of conformity if no non-conformity is found during the audit or during the documentation analysis or etc. And for the third class, additionally, you will receive the certificate of design examination. Most of Ukrainian conformity assessment bodies, you will receive from them in both languages, Ukrainian, English. So you will receive the certificate where you may read in Ukrainian and, for example, for your local customer, and in English for you, so for better understanding. Here also I would like to say one interesting fact, and this information will be heard only from you. So it's like life hack, So all of Ukrainian conformity assessment bodies, they are accredited by National Accreditation Agency, which is the part of International Accreditation Forum. So, for example, you couldn't use Ukrainian certificate of conformity for European market, but you could use your ISO 13485 obtained here on Ukrainian market, and you may use it on European market, because the ISO certificate is valid all around the world if the country is the part of International Accreditation Forum. And the cost of ISO 13485 certification for quality management system here is much cheaper than in Europe, and the same is for training. So if you are now considering obtaining the new ISO 13485 certificate or ISO training, we have also MDR training, you should consider Ukrainian, because it's much more cheaper and the level of knowledge is the same. I may assure you in this. Okay, we have talked about the classes. Let's move to the conformity assessment procedures, So we know, for example, that we should, for 2A to be the third class, we need the involvement of conformity assessment body. And here is the comparison of procedures. So in MDD we have Annex 2, in Ukraine we have Annex 3. So it is still the full quality assurance. In MDR, you know already that it is Annex 9, Chapter 1 or Chapter 2 either. Annex 2 of MDD is design examination. The same is Annex 3 design examination is in TR 753. And all rest are total equivalent of MDD, you may see, and differs from MDR. Yeah, but we may see still that Ukrainian regulation is total equivalent of MDD or IVDD, which is also important. So now we are moving to three basic types of conformity assessment at conformity assessment body here in Ukraine. There are three types. I will tell more information later, but they are CE certificate recognition. For example, if you have already obtained the CE certificate and Ukrainian conformity assessment body has the agreement with this notified body, you may submit only technical documentation, CE certificate, and reports from notified body to Ukrainian conformity assessment body, which has an agreement with your notified body, and that's all. No audit at all. In this case, the validity of certificate will be according to European one. Okay, and next type is on-site audit. When we are talking about classical on-site audit, I think you are familiar with this type of conformity assessment. The auditors from Ukraine come to your manufacturing site, come to your office, audit according to ISO 13485 in technical regulation, and after it, you will receive the certificate for 5 years. And the third one is the COVID legacy to audit is the remote audit. When for any circumstances, for example, again, COVID or any other pandemic or specific situation at your site, and you given this request to conformity assessment body, or for example, you are situated too far and it is very difficult to deliver the auditors to your site, you may request the remote audit, and it will be the same as on-site audit, but all like we now communicating by the information and communication technologies, yeah, by Skype or Zoom or Microsoft Teams. It depends on the enterprise. So this is our three basic models of conformity assessment with involving of conformity assessment body. Now let's split up and talk about each separately. By the way, on the right side of the slide, you may see the basic standard certificate of conformity for from one of the conformity assessment bodies, Ukrainian. It is Improve Medical. We're also working with them. So on-site audit. As I stated before, it is a standard method of conformity assessment, yeah? It requires the presence of auditors. The procedure is the total equivalent of MDD procedures. And by the end of the audit, if no non-conformity is found or observation specific, you will receive the certificate for 5 years with annual surveillance audit. So it is like that. Let's talk about pros and cons. Yeah. Of course, the main pros is that despite the recognition procedure where the validity of Ukrainian certificate will be strictly according to European one, here you will receive the certificate for 5 years from the date of the decision. Also, the plus comparing with the remote audit is that auditors review most of the documents on site. Most of the procedures, specific work instructions, some records, etc., all on site. So you don't need to prepare them before the audit, like when the process of remote audit starts. Yeah, because, okay, let's talk about remote audit a little bit later. And cons, of course, now for all of the applicants, it is accommodation and transport costs for auditors, because as you know, we do not have here direct flights. Yes, so that is why the auditors should go, for example, First on the train from Kiev to Krakow or any other city inside the Europe, and only after it take a flight to the next point until they reach the final destination. So the time of traveling is increased and it accumulates in costs. So that is why the cost of on-site audit will be much higher than standard recognition procedure. Next part is that the process of conformity assessment, the time from application until you receive the certificate will be longer than comparing to remote audits or the recognition. Yeah. So that's our basic pros and cons of on-site audit. Let's talk about the process in general. We just discussing now only the parts of communicating with conformity assessment body, because our work begins on the first step, where we prepare for you necessary documents for submission, where we prepare the power of attorney, the labeling, IFUs for local customers, etc. So after we together with you apply to conformity assessment body, they consider your application, give us the decision whether they accept our application or deny. Yeah. So after this, they form the group of experts, conduct an audit, or in case of recognition, they look on the documents, and if no non-conformities, they reach into another group of experts which analyzing all of the work of the auditors or experts who analyze documents, and after it, you will receive your certificate. Let's move to recognition. So when we talk about the recognition, there are not so much actually conformity assessment bodies in Ukraine who may perform this procedure. Why, you may ask me? I will explain. Because the process of signing an unilateral agreement between the Ukrainian conformity assessment bodies and notified body is about a year, like an MDR certification, because usually notified bodies are not interested in communication with Ukrainian conformity assessment body, only if they issue an invoice for validity confirmation of CE certificate. But if the notified body has its own database, the Ukrainian conformity assessment body may take the information about validity in their own database, or maybe in nearest future it will be EUDAMET. Yeah. But this recognition process does not require on-site auditors, so you won't show the manufacturing site, you won't spend the time on showing, going, walking around the enterprise, etc. Less documents and lower cost, because there is no travel expenses and all documentation is reviewed here in Ukraine. And of course, it is performed on the basis of the agreements with notified body. And if conformity assessment body in Ukraine does not have such agreement, you cannot proceed to a recognition process. Let's consider some documents, for example. Yeah. Here we may see the list of documents which is required of one of the Ukrainian conformity assessment bodies. And here we may see the standard list: the copy of agreement or power of attorney, quality manual, risk management report, clinical evaluation report, preclinical evaluation report, stability test report, some drafting of the labels for local market, IFUs, copy of European Union Declaration of Conformity, the draft of Ukrainian Declaration of Conformity, again the essential requirements according to Annex 1 of EC Directive, and the same for Annex 1 of Ukrainian Technical Regulation, some copies of ISO certificates if you have them, and Part A, so-called, of technical file, where the conformity assessment body may identify the description of the product, the patients, the specifications, the manufacturing process listed, some drawings, maybe some list of measurement devices, methods of sterilization if the product is sterile, some validation and verification information. So it is like a basic medical device file. Then the copy of manufacturer quality objectives for the current year, organizational structure, and then the documents which are referring to European notified body. Yeah, this is the confirmation from notified body, or the copy of last audit report, or copy of CE certificate which issued by notified body. So, and that's all. That's all that you will receive as a requirement from local notified body. Maybe if it will be MDR certificate, you will need also some post-market surveillance records, procedures, or any of this. Most of all, it's the post-market surveillance plan. A few words about these agreements between the notified body European and Ukrainian conformity assessment body. So we have like the law of Ukraine on technical regulations, where in 45 article is stated that Ukrainian conformity assessment body may accept the results from European notified body based on agreement. Yeah. And this agreement is so-called unilateral recognition agreement because it is only one-sided. So Ukrainian conformity assessment body recognizes, accepts the result of conformity assessment which was conducted on the territory of European Union. For the pros and cons, of course, no time additional to travel, nor specific payments for this. Of course, it's much more faster than standard on-site audit. You may finish in a month if all even less than a month if all documents are prepared and you are given all necessary documents which are required by the conformity assessment body. One of the most common mistakes which appears here is that a lot of companies try to enter and try to apply without the documentation for local Ukrainian market. That is why the process of conformity assessment becomes more time requesting. Yes, but this process also has the cons. The cons are of course, that Ukrainian certificate will be valid strictly according to European one certificate, and the local conformity assessment body should receive from you whether the letter from a confirmation letter on validity of the certificate from your notified body, or maybe a search on their own database that your certificate is valid, or in case of now due to amendments, it is the letter which confirms that you have signed an agreement with on MDR with your notified body, or etc. And you may see an example of such agreement. It is here, 2 sides, standard basic agreement. Now we are talking about specific conditions for conducting the remote audits. So sometimes companies outside the Ukraine, from the European Union or other parts of the world, they say that, oh, you have the war in Ukraine, so we may conduct the audit remotely. But the international accreditation form document states that should be circumstances on the side of the manufacturer. So the conformity assessment body may initialize the remote audit, but only if there are circumstances on the side of the manufacturer. So that is why if you want to receive the remote audit, please prepare the request for this remote audit together with the application. We help to prepare these letters. So if you come to us, we will help you in this also. Next one is remote audit. Remote audit, of course, it includes too much additional documentation to prepare. Sometimes companies choose to on-site audit, preferably, because for remote audit they should prepare all procedures according to ISO 13485 before the online part starts. It is like management review together with records. It is training records. It is examples of batch records, examples of some health insurances, examples of training certificates, examples of suppliers audit, examples of kappa, etc. So there are a lot of documentation to prepare, but still the remote audit is an audit online. So nobody come to you, and it much more cheaper if we compare with standard on-site audit. I hope this is useful information for you. Please communicate somehow in chat, so I may got that we have right angle of communication. Okay. And final thing I would like to communicate with you is the factors which affecting the speed, duration of the conformity assessment here in Ukraine. The first one is, of course, that there is no classification, so documentation is submitted in chaotic manner without any reference to the list of required documents. Like here, no one puts 1, 2, and etc. So the conformity assessment body may deny the application or may request some additional documents. So when the documentation is applied strictly according to a list of required documentation, you will have your process and you will receive your certificate much more faster. Of course, the next part is missing the documentation for the Ukrainian market, because it is even the reason for some conformity assessment bodies to refuse to even register the application. Usual part also is no revision date in the instructions for use, so it is present in European one, but there is no revision date in Ukrainian one. So when you are talking with your distributors, please don't forget to ask them to put this date inside the instruction for use. And of course, the last one is our conformity mark. It is usually maybe asymmetrical, or for high-risk classes products, there is no number of conformity assessment bodies, and etc. So that's most of the reason why the speed and time when you receive your certificate of conformity is delayed. And last for today, if you need any assistance in entering the Ukrainian market with your medical device, we're also working with dietary supplements. We're also working with European Union market. We help some companies to enter the European Union market. So we assist in all communication with conformity assessment body, in quotation receival, and etc. We may help you to develop specific documentation requirements, even according to MDR, to write clinical evaluation reports, to conduct training with certificates, and etc. And we also have YouTube channel where you may see all of the webinars which we are usually publishing. I don't know exactly if we will publish this one, but I think it will be published. So we usually conduct some webinars, free webinars in English. So please subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to, let's keep in touch. Yeah. And see you on the next webinars. I see that our question answered, which were asked. So that is why I wish you a great rest of the day. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. The contact email and phone numbers are on the slide. So wish you good day and great new achievements. Bye.